What's good, YouTube? We're talking college sports in the Deep South where college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Vernon Speaks Sports once again here on the podcast, here on YouTube once again. Here on this channel, it's always great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting as it relates to, how this thing translates over to success in your program. I think Auburn needs to begin the mindset of reloading versus rebuilding. Now, that's easier said than done, but that's something that Auburn basically has been doing probably over the last, years that we can count. Okay. You have good seasons. You have say for instance, back in 2010, you have a national championship season, but it's a dramatic decline after that national championship season. Then coaching change, then you get back to a national championship in 2013. Then that dramatic decline again until 2017, where you had somewhat of a chance to win a national champion. Well, not a national championship, but win an SEC championship with a chance to make it to the college football playoffs. Why do these things happen? If you think about even a company that has interesting turnover, usually their level of success is going to be inconsistent because their personnel is inconsistent. You think about Auburn. You'll have a season where you have great personnel, then all of those guys have a massive exodus, and then you're automatically back to square one. And that's how you go from a 14-0 season to the next year having a 5-6 season or a 7-5 season, things of that nature. How does Auburn change this? Well, you got to look over at you guys, LSU, Georgia, and Alabama. If you look at them since 2000, we're just going to use 2015 to 2016 as a small example. Since that time, LSU, Georgia, and Alabama have had consistently been in the top 10 as it relates to recruiting. LSU obviously on the low end of that, but still, you take away the top. One year they were ranked 15 in recruiting. I think that was like 2018, 17, somewhere around there. But for the most part have been in the top 10. And then you look at Georgia and Alabama, who have been in the top 2 or 3 for the last few years. What does that mean? That does not necessarily translate into national championships. However, it translates to consistent opportunity to potentially be in the mix for a national championship. Look at Georgia. 2017, college football playoff. 2018, SEC championship, staring the possibility, a viable possibility, of 2 years in a row in the college football playoff. You look at 2019, there's nothing that says Georgia shouldn't be there again this year. Why? Because there's consistent recruiting. This is no mistake, guys. Top 5, top 10, top 3 recruiting classes translates into success. You look at the success of Alabama. I think Nick Saban probably is a good coach. Okay? But it's kind of hard not to be a good coach when you have consistent number 1, number 2, number 3 recruiting classes, and they start to build up, and that thing starts to add up. You can have a massive exodus of NFL guys going to the NFL, but you just reload. And that's the mode that Auburn will have to get to. Now, it's not plausible, in my opinion, considering what Auburn is up against recruiting-wise, to have top 3 and top 4 recruiting class on a yearly basis. But they can sustain a top between 10 and 7 with some quality players that are developed, have the ability to be developed to help Auburn down to have more sustainability to where you don't have these 13-0 seasons. Then the next year you go 8-5. Then you go 8-5 for a couple of more years. And then now that talent that's about to leave next year has finally grown up, kind of like what you got happening in 2019. Then you have this mass exodus, and now you're back to 3-9 and 4, 5-6 and 7-5, and you're like, hey, we need to get rid of the coach. You don't necessarily need to get rid of the coach. The coach and his staff has to come up with a more sustainable recruiting philosophy, a recruiting philosophy that's built for reloading versus rebuilding. So that's the thing that Auburn has to do. Now, I think with this particular recruiting class for Auburn in 2019, it could begin that particular process. Then you think about the epic momentum that Auburn has recruiting wise for 2020. There's no reason to think that if Auburn can continue this, you could have the possibility that for some years to come, you have a situation where Auburn is reloading instead of rebuilding. Because if you're constantly in rebuilding mode, it's just inconsistent. And it's going to be reflective in your numbers when it comes to, outcomes of the season. You talk about Auburn missing out on a lot of money. Last year in 2018, going to the Music City Bowl, when this was very well a team that should have been playing in the Fiesta Bowl in a rematch against UCF. And all of that is because inconsistencies in philosophies. Okay, knowing what you want. There's no way. I think Jarrett Stidham was a good quarterback, but I think you have to be a little bit more knowledgeable about what you want and what it's going to take for you to be successful in the type of philosophy, offensive wise, that you want to do. I think Auburn has fixed that with Joey Gatewood and Bo Nix, and also with some recruiting efforts for 2020 quarterback wise. Same way with linebackers. Your linebackers have to be a lot faster than they used to be. And I think Auburn is starting to fix that with Owen Papo and guys like those who are now adding that strength and that speed on the edge. Okay, so let's think about this, guys. Go ahead and leave your comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're talking about reloading versus rebuilding. Go ahead and like this comment, subscribe to the channel. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.